Hi, it's Shauna, and I hope you're all having a fabulous day. Welcome to another year in the garden. Hi, everyone. I am going to walk you through several low maintenance, easy to care for, um, heat tolerant, sun tolerant, and drought tolerant once established perennials that I planted in my garden over the spring that have just thrived and done awesome so far. These are greenery, non-blooming type plants that just add a beautiful contrast and color to your garden against your other blooming plants. All right, first up, we have lamb's ear. I absolutely love this plant. I planted a couple of these in the spring. It's December now, and look how small they were whenever I planted them. It just goes to show how much your plants will fill in a space and how beautiful they will be if you give them some time. This plant quadrupled in size after just one growing season and filled in. Lamb's ear really does add a lot of beautiful and color and texture against your other blooming plants in the garden. Lamb's ear is more of a silvery grayish green. They call these plants lamb's ear because the leaves are soft and fuzzy, making them feel like velvet, like a lamb's ear. They are perennial for zones 4 through 8. Some sources will say 4 through 9. They thrive in full sun, but they can handle part shade. They can tolerate extreme heat. And not only can they tolerate extreme heat, but they actually thrive in it. They prefer well-drained average soil, but they're going to tolerate poor soil. They are fast growers, so you will want to divide your lamb's ear up every couple of years to manage the size and to keep the center from dying out, which means free plants. You divide them up, put them in other places in your garden, and they are going to quadruple in size, and you can keep dividing and putting them in more and more and more places till you fill in a big area. I mean, they are really great. The only pruning or maintenance you're going to want to do on these each year is to remove the browning leaves on the underside of the plant. I think they get this way probably because they're hidden under all those other leaves and they don't get enough sun. So just pull those out and remove them, and that's it. They are drought tolerant once established, they don't need to be fertilized, and they are deer and rabbit resistant. These really are very low maintenance and easy to care for plants. Okay, so Nandina gets a bad rap because the traditional cultivar Nandina domestica, it can be invasive in many parts of the US and it produces an abundance of berries. Birds will eat those berries and spread the seeds to new locations, causing the plant to spread aggressively. But Nandina firepower is one of those Nandinas that's sterile. It doesn't produce berries. It's a slow grower and it only reaches 2 to 3 feet tall and wide at maturity. It's a perennial in zones 6 through 10. You will want to plant this in full sun to partial shade. If you live in zones 8 to 9, it's going to keep its leaves in the winter and turn this vibrant red as in this picture shown here. Now, this is not my picture. I just planted mine in the spring. It hasn't had time to for those leaves to turn red yet, so I couldn't get my own picture, but I wanted to show you what it will look like when that happens, which I am very excited to see. So you're going to want to plant this in well-drained, slightly acidic to neutral soil, but it will tolerate a range of soil conditions, even poor soil. It doesn't like overly wet, soggy conditions though, and it is drought tolerant once established. It can benefit from a slow release fertilizer in the spring. Something like a hollytone is good, since they do prefer to be slightly acidic. But you can also use something like plant tone. That would work too. They are deer and rabbit resistant, and they are so far easy to care for plants. And next up we have Gold Star Juniper. So Gold Star Juniper. This one is a perennial in zones 4 through 9. This is a beautiful evergreen shrub with a dense blue-green body accented by bright gold or chartreuse-tipped branches. You are going to want to plant this one in full sun to partial shade. It prefers well-draining, slightly acidic soil, but it is tolerant to a range of soil types. You'll want to water it deeply a couple of times a week for the first month or two while the plant is establishing its new root system. But once established, these plants are very drought tolerant and only need watering during prolonged dry spells or heat waves. You will want to avoid overwatering as it can lead to root rot. You will want to lightly fertilize in early spring with a slow release fertilizer, something like a Hollytone for this one, since it does like to be more on the acidic side, and that's going to encourage new growth. For pruning, you will want to prune in early spring before new growth begins, and only prune branches back to where there is still green growth because the old brown branches won't regrow. This is a slow grower that will reach approximately 3 feet tall and 6 feet wide at maturity, but it's going to take about 10 years to reach maturity, and it has a horizontal spread with drooping branch tips. It is very pretty and it is deer and rabbit resistant. I wanted to include this picture to show you a more mature gold star juniper. Mine is still a young plant, but in this picture, it shows the full potential and the impact it can make as it gets bigger. I think this plant is just stunning. All right, so the final plant that we're going to be talking about today is the Niagara Falls Pennisetum. This grass is so beautiful with the texture and movement it adds to the garden. The foliage is a powdery bluish green in the spring, and then the feathery plumes are going to develop late in the summer with creamy white seed heads forming on the plant in the fall and persisting into the winter, providing a long lasting display. Whenever I purchased mine, it only had maybe 6 little 12-inch grass stems sticking up. I wish I had another picture of the Niagara Falls I planted whenever it was thriving, but I don't, and I'll explain that momentarily. But it grew so much in just one season. Okay, so actually, the first picture I put up of the Niagara Falls Pennisetum, and the next one you're going to see is not mine, but and that's because mine hadn't gotten a chance to get that big yet, and I want you to see it in its full glory. All right, so this is a perennial in zones 4 through 9. You're going to want to plant this in full sun. It can tolerate and thrive in extreme heat. You will want to plant this in well-draining soil and add compost if you're planting in heavy clay. It's a very fast grower. It's going to reach 4 feet tall and wide once mature. You're going to want to water this frequently, providing moderate moisture until it's established. It is drought tolerant once established, but it's going to appreciate a deep soaking during prolonged dry periods. You're going to want to avoid planting in a soggy area or soggy soil, and don't let this plant sit in constantly wet soil because that's going to lead to root rot. Niagara Falls ornamental grass is not a heavy feeder, so just dressing of compost in the spring will be sufficient, and too much fertilizer can lead to floppy growth. You can divide this up every few years to keep the center from becoming woody, which means replant. You will want to prune in late winter or early spring to about 3 inches above the ground before new growth appears. It is deer and rabbit resistant. This plant is going to double or triple in size after just one growing season. It will die back in the winter, but you can leave those dead stems for winter interest, food, and shelter for the wildlife. Okay, now for the very sad news. Here is a picture of what my Niagara Falls looks like now. So I made the mistake of planting a garden bed too narrow. All of my plants grew so much that they were crowding each other out. And side note, I'll be making a video about that too and other mistakes I've made in the garden, including the overcrowding situation and lessons learned. So now I need to expand that garden bed, and I went ahead and dug this Niagara Falls up to relocate it. When I dug it up, I may not have dug it deep enough to get under the root ball good, and I'm afraid I might have damaged the roots. I could hear them ripping pretty badly. After I moved it, I did notice all the stems turning brown almost immediately. Now, that could be that the plant was just stressed from the move and the roots are fine. As long as the roots are fine, then it should be okay. It'll bounce back, it'll recover, and it'll come back next year. It was also around the time that our temperatures started to drop and the plant would have gone dormant, although I kind of feel like it started before that. So I don't know. I should have probably went ahead and cut back the foliage a few inches above the ground at that point, and honestly, I'm not sure why I didn't, but it would have helped it to conserve energy to focus on establishing new root systems or its new root system in the new location. So I messed up there, and they do need more water until they're established, but they also don't like wet feet or sitting in soggy conditions. After I moved it, I gave it a very deep soaking, but then we had a lot of unexpected rain. So it could have got a lot more water than what it actually needed and may have been sitting in soggy conditions and got wet feet. So the next thing, I was out of compost whenever I replanted it in the new location. I thought, oh, it's going to be fine. I amended that area before, but now I question how well it was amended and the drainage. So it really has a lot of things going against it. I honestly don't know if it's going to come back next year and if it survived all that or not. We'll find out next spring and I will keep you all updated. If it doesn't survive, I'm definitely going to be getting another one to replace it because it is so pretty. But if it does survive all that, then it just moved up a couple of spots on my list because that will be a super tough plant. So stay tuned. Thank y'all so much for joining me today. And until next time, plant something beautiful. Thanks, everyone. Bye.